I know sometimes we tend to seek validation from people, but I think that's the worst mistake we'll make at that point. If you found someone who you feel comfortable talking to, I mean, things might not work out as you may expect, right? What people say doesn't really matter. What matters is now the next level, especially if you have kids. Are people going to help you with those kids? Are they going to help you with your bills? No.
Often you hear of a guy, or you know of a guy, or your relative who's been widowed, who's remarried, and who's a single parent. But I often wonder, why don't we talk about the men as much as we talk about the women? Sometimes, even within our communities, when you hear single parent, your mind automatically goes to women. And it seems like, that role or that label, as you say, is only for women. What are we doing about the single parents who are men in our communities? How are we looking out for them? Men might have the machoism. They don't show vulnerabilities. But we all know that they are vulnerable. We all know that they actually do cry. And my guest today is a wonderful single parent who is an amazing dad with a life-changing story. So welcome to Talk with Mo. And join me as I welcome Michael Okole. How are you, Michael?
Very well. Thank you so much, Modupe.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you for having me as well. Thank you.
I want to say thank you, first of all, for just being vulnerable to even say, I will talk about this. This is a very difficult topic.
Absolutely.
First, I know this has been a while now, but I'm sorry for your loss. I know it's been some time now. So just take us back to how all of this happened. How did you meet your first love? When did you get married? What happened? How did she pass? Can you take our audience on that journey with you?
Thank you so much, Modupe, and thanks, audience, for having me today. My name is Michael Okole, and I'm one of those passionate tech individuals in the city of Toronto. I own and operate an IT company, and I also am an advisor in one of the municipalities in Ontario. As you know, I'm a single dad with lovely kids, and I'm proud to say that every day. I also sit on different board of directors, supporting different communities across the GTA. Mm-hmm. So being a single dad, I mean, it's not something that we plan or that I'd hoped for, but somehow life takes us through stuff. So I was just sharing with you earlier how I met my kid's mom, who my soul rest in peace. Is resting now in the Lord, and I use the word I play locally.
You play locally.
So I was in school too, as an undergraduate, and I think I remember how we met. It was at night in classroom studying at the Faculty of Engineering at the University of Benin. Quite an interesting story. I must have been in my third year. She was in studying computer science after my first in mathematics and statistics.
So you were scoping her instead of studying?
I was, when I eventually decided to scope, I actually scoped.
You actually scoped well.
So but, it was quite interesting because she was sitting on the other end of the hall, one of those lecture rooms. And I was on the other end as well, studying. I'd seen her once or twice, and she just comes in with her books and study till about 1 a.m. the next day. And I also would do the same thing, then on this day, I decided to just start up the conversation. So let me use the word. I started the scoping.
You scoping?
The scoping gel.
Oh my goodness.
So we started a very beautiful relationship, I must say. You know that thing they say, when you want to marry your friend. So, and I think she's still my friend. She was the best thing that ever happened. You know, when you have a strong person, strong woman who is very passionate and understands you from the get-go. That was her. You know, she knew I was ambitious, and I still am. She knew that my intent and my dream for life is completely different. You know, and she accepted my offer after we came out of school, my proposal. Just shortly after, I went through the NYSC.
Yes.
You know, I got a job. I worked so very hard. I was retained by one of the multinational companies in Lagos, Nigeria at the time. You know, so I graduated a year after that NYSC, or maybe a year and some month after NYSC was when we got married. Yeah. So while some of my friends were still busy running around the street of Lagos,
you wanted.
I already had someone, so I was probably maybe 26 when I decided to marry her, and she accepted. And of course, she came from a very lovely family too. She was Yoruba, and I remember the parents, Omo Igbo, no. I was a Lagosian too, so when I go in there, I'll switch and I'll speak Yoruba. I'm like, okay, he's not completely Omo Igbo, but he's from Delta State, right? So I hear from Delta State. She was from Bogon, Osun State.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and I would tell them stories about my years in Federal Polytechnic, Ede. You know, like this is not completely an Igbo. You know how it is sometimes when you have an intertribal relationship. So we got married, had 2 beautiful kids together before she passed. So she was ill, passed and left me with 2 beautiful ones. And I'm sure you probably hear me call their names every time. Then on, I mean, it was kind of like a peaceful transition, I would say, because she didn't leave me with them, but I think she's still there even till date. You know, sometimes when those kids do some things or they speak, they tend to speak the voice of their mom. You know, especially my daughter, the first one. You know, I'm like, okay, that's talking. That's the way she would normally talk, right? So, but when she passed, life presented me with a completely different. I mean, you get a guy who started life at 26. It shows you how serious he was. And I've always wanted to be like, start my life early, have my kids early, so that I can do the same thing that I'm doing now, run around with them, play basketball, play soccer. That was my dream, and I'm glad that I'm seeing that, happen now. So I moved on, and I believe she would want me to move on for sure. Yeah.
Before we get to you moving on, like, what happened to her? Did she fall sick? What? Do you mind?
Yeah, she was ill. She had I mean, similar to my mom, you know, and one of the reasons why actually we had an intention from the get-go as well to move out of Nigeria at some point. Here we need to plan, you know, for our kids especially. You know how the medical system is. The health condition was not properly managed, I would say.
I see.
You know. And,
so she had a condition.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, right. And you knew about that condition.
Yeah, and we had a moment in and out of the hospital where I thought that, you know, they could have managed it properly.
Better.
You know, and I think it was just a mismanagement. And I saw something similar happen to my mom as well. You know, poor management of people's health, and that kind of worries me sometimes. I mean, and I think that was one of those things that also propelled me, and I said, you know what, I'm not gonna. And I must say, I said something recently. I said, if I had to go through what I went through with Gabriella in Nigeria, I don't think we would have gone through it. That was another major one.
That's right.
But I believe that you know, she's resting and still watching over. That's always been my belief, because she was very young when she passed, and it seemed like she was everywhere still. I could feel, someone from when you were nothing, as a young undergrad, work together. We both know our families, our friends, and so it was tough. It was tough, but every time I look at my kids and those beautiful kids she left behind, always just gives me reason to just move on. And I think I didn't want to leave those kids without them having someone to look onto and call their mother. And I think that was one of those things that pushed me to, moving to, seeking to remarry and, move on from there.
Now, within the Nigerian context, I don't know about other African countries, but within the Nigerian context, when a woman loses her husband, society almost frowns on her, upon if she even thinks it, to get to remarry after 5 years, for example. They're like, oh, that's too soon. There's a grieving process that is different between a man and a woman. What was the grieving process like for you, and what, from a societal point of view, how would you say it's different? I know you're a man and you probably might not grieve like you won't grieve like a woman, but how do you see the differences between grieving as a man and grieving as a woman in the Nigerian context?
Well, I mean, that's a very good question, Mo. But I think grieving is not I don't think it's a matter of time. I think it's a matter of, I mean, you've been married to someone for years. You should, within that period of marriage, know what that person wants.
Exactly.
Whether you're going to move on the next day or the day after. I mean, what traditional people sometimes they say, respect the dead, I think it's not a matter. It's been, I would say, it's going to be 10 years since she passed. July 14, 2015. So it's going to be 10 years this year, right? And I think, and I still am connected to some of our friends from, way back. We knew from school and all of this stuff. And sometimes they'll call in time to time to check in. I don't think it's a matter of time. Traditionally, yes, like I said earlier, the culture will make you want to feel like, okay, give some time. But I think I knew she would want me to move on.
To move on.
Yeah, knowing that those kids were little. I'm talking about kids at 4 years and 1 year each month. I was still little. I still have his pictures. So when I show him his pictures these days, it looks like he's almost like 6 feet now, and I'm like, look at you when you were very little. So I think would want me to move on like I did, but did I move on in the right direction? That's another question for another day, right? Just connecting it to our earlier conversation. Would she want me to be would she want her kids happy if she loved those kids? If it wasn't that, she would be there with them all through, So I don't think it's a matter of time. People wait maybe for a reason, culture, tradition, whatever it is. I think the moment one is able to respect, do the funeral tradition, do it in the right way, respectfully to both the family. Absolutely. I know the family also found it was really challenging for both families to take, because we're talking about a woman here who everybody loves so dearly, right? And somehow these things happen. It was really challenging. The parents, my kids' grandparents visited some few weeks ago, all the way from Nigeria. And they came to spend time. So I still have pictures of those as well. So I think it's not a matter of time if you ask me. It's about understanding what your partner or your wife or would want you to do afterward.
And what is practical, maybe.
Exactly. She knew, we both knew we were going to get out of Nigeria at some point. And we both knew that we wanted the best for our kids. We wanted to just have two of them and just travel and enjoy ourselves. That was the dream. That was the plan. Right. So I'm glad that, I know she'll be glad to see that, those things are coming to reality, right? And knowing also that we started our relationship as, student from school.
Mm-hmm.
She knew I was young. She knew there's no way I could do whatever I wanted to do all
On
by
your
myself, So
You needed help.
even in our grave, which is still way back in one of my properties back home, I'm sure she'll be happy that I made that decision.
Mm-hmm.
Most happy
Move
to see
on.
that those kids also are in a good place and in a good hand
Right.
as well.
Right. Now, I know that for most women who lost their husbands, when they think of remarriage, one of the major concerns is what will people say? Now, for a man, did that thought ever cross your mind? What will people say?
No. You see, I don't think, even especially at that time when you're grieving, you just lost your soul, your soulmates. What people say doesn't really matter. What matters is now the next level.
Step.
Especially if you have kids.
Young ones at that.
Yeah, if you have kids, whatever, are people going to help you with those kids? Are they going to help you with your bills? No, it's those things. I know sometimes we tend to seek validation from people, but I think that's the worst mistake we'll make at that point. If you found someone who you feel comfortable talking to, things might not work out as you may expect, right? But you probably find someone you feel like, okay, I think this person, I'm comfortable sharing stuff with this person. When I say sharing stuff, like being a friend and navigating that friendship process
and life,
and maybe eventually you feel like, okay, I think this person likes my kids. You could as well take it to the next level, right? I don't think we need people to validate or tell us how long, both men and women how to live life after. Especially, like I said, what matters most is the period when you still have your husband or your wife or your partner. You already know what you both want for yourself, right? That sometimes when I want to do something, they're like, what would she think?
What would she think?
You know what I'm saying? They're like, because we were close, we're friends, and it seemed like we already had a plan for what we want to do. 10, 20 years, even as students, right? So everything that I do today, I say it sometimes to someone. I say I owe it to her. Some of my friends know. They say, Michael, that was your buddy. That was the only person who can understand you forever. Like anyone else you pick up, any other person who becomes like a friend or a partner in future, it's probably not going to be the same. Sometimes I kind of like try to understand why, but it's clearly the fact that we met when I would say I was nothing, nobody, from a humble home, doing my stuff way back in school as a student.
So you both invested in yourselves.
And I want to say investment in time.
Yes.
It's not the material, it's the time. How much time we spend together, what we talk about during those times, right? And I remember some of my friends in the States, last time we visited, they were like, oh, okay, she was so proud of you because this is one of the things she wanted to do. You talked about having your own business. You talked about helping the community. You talked about, just serving people, and being an amazing parent, So, and that's when I look at it, today, I actually have no regret for any decision that I've made. So I'm so maybe it needed time to. I could stay 10 years and at the end of the day still not get the right person.
Right, that's true.
So it's not time. It's just about looking into the future, understanding what it is your partner wanted from you, especially since you both have kids in between you. Then you can take that leap.
I know you had mentioned that you moved on, so you remarried.
Yeah.
So how long was it between the death and remarriage and this person, the person you married to, your wife? What's that relationship like?
I would say it's good. It's not there, but we have a child. Like I always say, that's my third child, an amazing girl too. It took about 2 years for me to remarry.
Okay.
Would I say, so I'll put it this way. Relationship don't have to go
the length of time.
No. And it doesn't have to go well in some cases. Again, I might sound a little bit awkward here, but I've learned to both in business, in family, in relationship. I've learned to accept sometimes that things will not always go well.
Mm-hmm.
When it doesn't go well, what do you do afterward? You know, someone said to me, "Are you going to marry again?" I say, "Yes, I will try. I'll do it again, but I have to do it when I'm most, you know, comfortable with it at this point, right?"
Mm-hmm.
So 2 years after we got, again, she was my colleague, right? My local way of playing.
You play local.
You know, so we got as colleagues, we started talking. She was there during the moment of grieving, so I thought, you know, around my kids, and I thought, okay, I think I probably would try this one again and see.
Mm-hmm.
But shortly after moving down here again,
From
sometimes,
Nigeria to Canada.
then everything began to collapse again.
Mm.
I mean, I told that story. I just told you some of those stories, and I think it didn't go as planned. And again, like I said, no regret. We still talk. We do, and I think she's an amazing mother as well. We have a child between us, and we just co-parent. She calls, I call whenever I want to talk to my daughter, and I think we have that understanding that, hey, we have to be civil. We have to show good examples to our kids,
yeah.
you know. And she's called me like twice today and say, "Hey, your daughter wants to talk to you." So, and I'll get on the call. "Hey, how are you?" And we just stay on the call for a little bit. So, I would say that didn't work, but would I put it on the society? Would I say it's her? Would I say it's me? It's not for me to tell, right? So, but I know one thing is for sure: as long as we have, you know, children between us, because I also classify my first two as our child, because the two have a sibling, right? So, as long as we both understand that and would create environment for those kids to mingle, spend time together, and I think that's what matters. And until we figure out what we want to do, whether it's going to be between us again or it's going to be, you know, with someone else, we're just going to keep trying. Life is about just trying, just making effort, just, you know, tactically making effort, and of course, crown it all with prayers, hoping God is just going to send the right person at some point.
I love how you said, you know, up front, she's a wonderful person. Not everybody would have a marital breakdown and call their partner a wonderful person. I'm sure she'll say the same of you. Michael, do you ever think she probably was threatened by the memory of your late wife? Is this something that ever crossed your mind? I'm just putting this out there. I don't know that is true for sure.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think she knew I had we had a long time. I had a long-term relationship with my, you know, my first, and she knew these two were amazing. I mean, she was all over them before I thought she would be like a mom to them, and you know, I took that leap. I don't think so. I think, like I said in my earlier response, I think the moment one leaves this world, you know, it's no longer. I don't think they bother about what goes on around us. No, we are the one who bother about them and worry. So the moment one leaves this world, the spirit might be there, but we don't have any reason, you know, to bother about where they are or whatever is going on in that space. So I don't think she was threatened by that. I think largely the environment here, the Western world has a different way of shaping relationship. I think that's what I would say was the major concern. You come in here, we had a lifestyle back home. I mean, talking about a guy who Friday evening, I'm already in my t-shirt and my sneakers and I'm ready to go, and she's approved of it. And we came in here, we don't have those kind of life. Sunday we all go out, it's Friday, you know, we don't have those kind of life, and especially if one is not patient, right? You're not patient to understand that this is a process we're going to navigate. You know, I would say if she was still there today, we'll have all those time, because kids are at that level now where they can say, okay, we can take care of some things, just make sure someone is there looking at what we can do. So I think it's more about the environment where we found ourselves shortly after marriage, than, her being threatened about
The past.
the past. Yeah.
Wow. Tell me about your kids. I know you're very involved with your kids, and you just actually came in from a basketball practice. How challenging is it to be a single dad?
Is it challenging? Can I ask you?
I don't know. I don't have that experience, and that's why I want to know.
No, I don't think it's challenging. I mean, it makes us do more. It makes me sacrifice my time with my friends. I no longer hang out with them the way I used to, right? I have to cut off some things and some activities just to make sure that I'm there for them. But in the end, I see more from the angle of, maybe this is, again, I say to some of my friends, I say, when I was young and I was learning all this hands-on stuff from my parents, I was hoping I started life at 26, with the intention of being a family guy, come back home. And I think I enjoyed those years, wake up in the morning, go to work, my stuff is ready for work. I go to work, come back to my family. It's kind of beautiful, and I mean, I'm enjoying it now too. It just takes a bit it takes some things away from you. And I think that's all it takes, as a single parent. Some things, if you're ready to weed them off, it's just going to end up becoming like fun in the end. So I'm enjoying the basketball time, the soccer time, the time we spend, gossiping about things that happen at work and in school. Just last night, was asking me why she was in school, and that the teacher were asking her to share an event or a memory story about their parents. And I was telling her about how back in those days in school I was bullied, and I said the consequences of being bullied would be to get an A in that subject, right? So I think besides that, have I enjoyed it? I would say yes, 100%. I'm actually more at peace, knowing that my kids are happy. There's no back and forth, no drama, I would say. I think that's also one of those things I didn't point out. When you have kids from another mother and you have another woman in the house, if that understanding is not there, doesn't understand, there could be some, friction here and there. I kind of had a bit of that, and I was worried. I was like, no, this is not kind of home I want. I want a home where everywhere is peaceful. Kids can be free to mingle, and but I'm a very peaceful, loving person, so I think that's what I've enjoyed the most. I won't say it's challenging, if you ask me, to be honest. I mean, like I said earlier, I will leave some things, and I always find a way around it. If I need to go somewhere, I have support within the community. These support workers you can call,
yes, for sure.
And say, okay, step in and go now. So the other thing sometimes that I have to deal with sometimes is just being at different events, especially with those first two. The days when has basketball practice the same day,
navigating, both of them
same time, same day, and I'm like, okay, how am I gonna
which do you go for?
I hear two of them say, Daddy, you have to come to my game. And I'm not the kind of guy who goes to games like that and just sits quiet and watch. I'm rooting from the sideline. Sometimes the coaches are even telling me, okay, do you want to come do my So I kind of like, struggle with those sometimes. But at the end, they always find a way to just agree on what game I go for, So, kids are amazing. And I say if economy was good, I would love to have more
kids.
You gotta have kids.
But then you have to get married.
You have to get married.
All right. So Michael, we've talked about your loss, the loss of your wife. We've talked about remarriage and the fact that the marriage broke down, it didn't work. We've talked about raising kids as a single parent. Why is it that we don't have a lot of men who come out to talk about things like you have openly discussed today? What's responsible for that?
I don't know.
I don't know. That's a fair answer. That's a fair answer.
I don't know. I told my kids though. I said, "Hey, I have a talk show to give. They're gonna come sit down." So I thought it was like an open stuff for them to come sit and just listen. You know, I said I'm gonna go talk about some part of my story, and they were cheering me, saying, "Oh, go! You got this, Dad.
Oh, you got this." How sweet.
I really think that, and thanks again for giving me this opportunity. I think there are conversations we should have. There are conversations we should have. Reason being that these things are prevalent. They are there in this society. We all know.
We know.
Some are even married, but they are single.
Sure.
The woman has to do everything all by herself sometimes, or the man has to do. There's almost no support. So what's the point? You're in the house where you have the guy, you have the woman. The guy is in the basement, the woman is up there. And the woman is not giving him support, or he is not giving the woman support.
That's not a marriage.
So what's the point? So I think that conversation, I don't know why we don't have these conversations in our society these days, but I know that there are many more besides myself that probably are in this same, whether they're still tied to their partner or their wife or not, they're probably almost like single and have to do a lot of things and carry a lot of things all by themselves, right? And when we talk about being single, it's not just being single
as a status.
Exactly. We're talking about even your mindset can be single.
Yet you're living together.
Yeah, you're almost the kind of lifestyle you're living is like a single life too. You just still have it in record that you have
you're
someone
married,
tied
and
to
everybody's doing their thing.
Doing their stuff. You're single. Come out and talk about it. So I don't know, like I said, why we don't have too many people talking about this, but you started it. Hopefully this message would be a source of encouragement for people to come out and talk about their story. And without filter, I mean, they say a problem shared is a problem half solved, right? You share what your challenges are, most likely. And we've got very amazing people in the community. Sometimes and that's why I feel like it's no challenge, because I could call a friend now and say, "Hey, help me pick up these kids. I'm not able to be at this." I could call the basketball friends' parents. Some might even volunteer and say, "Hey, go do what you want to do, drop them, or we'll pick them up, or we'll have them at our place."
And that's because of the openness and the honesty, right? To say these are the challenges, this is what the situation is.
Because at the end of the day, you end up carrying all these things in your mind, and then you become disorganized, and you can raise kids when you're disorganized. You got to be well organized, well structured, and well composed to raise kids who would also be healthy,
Absolutely,
and be good examples.
Michael. But apart from disorganization, there's also the mental health, because you're carrying so much, and there's only so much you can handle, and one day you're bound to, spill it all out, and who knows where and when. Yes, men taking a lot. I know that many men want to position themselves as bravado or just they're strong. They are strong, and we know that men are strong, but I think it also helps when we know where, as women, as community, we can come alongside men. Michael, if there's any man watching and saying, I can relate to what Michael is saying, that story resonates with me, what would you want to tell them? What's your parting words for someone listening out there, going through any kind of challenge, be it mental health, be it single parenthood, whatever it is? What's your advice to them?
Well, simply just speak up. Just speak up. You've provided this platform for, men and women to come out and speak about, their single parenting experience. Just speak up. That would be my advice. Speak up. If you're not able to speak up, maybe in a space like this, you probably get a someone, a counselor, a mentor,
Therapist.
or a therapist or something. So I've not had any reason to reach out. I just talk to people. Sometimes, even in the middle of some conversations, my kids are there. Like, Dad, you just talked about your story in 2 minutes. I'm like, what do you want me to do? And I talk about it and I get some really nice response and comments. So, and of course, you can also downplay the fact also that, especially when you have kids, those kids are always like a source of inspiration and support as well. For example, I don't go to bed if I don't see them and get that midnight, late night hug. You know, if I'm not making it down before they go to bed, I do a video call. I check in the camera and just like, okay, guys, I'm gonna see you soon. Guys, I'm feeling good, want to go sleep, just go sleep. I get my neighbor sometimes check in to just be sure. So that if I'm able to, there's always that. And that in itself is therapeutic. The late night kisses and hugs before bedtime. And the morning, and it's like it has become like a tradition now. In the morning you wake up and you get those kisses and those hugs and you drop off and just head out to your own day. It kind of makes us bonded.
Yes.
And I've heard stories about people having challenges in their homes, and those challenges are also keeping them away from interacting with their kids. It can be draining. Your kids, you don't go a day without spending time with your kids. I don't see how I'm going to survive a day without, spending time with my kids. And I'm even talking about the one who is outside, phone call at least,
Yes.
So I think besides speaking up, exercise, get your therapy, your kid's always going to be, again, it comes down to how much you care about your family and your kids, right? Exercise is also another thing I always recommend. You gotta exercise, spend time. So I do.
Let it out.
You gotta let it out. I do. That's my ritual. I have a subscription with One Health, and I will go there when I'm done sorting them out. I'll go there. That's my temple for relief. I go there, exercise a little bit, push some weight, do some cardio, do some stretches, and then by the time I'm back. And because they know that also has been a part of my life, they even remind me, Dad, have you gone to gym today?
So you have your accountability partners at home. There you go.
That's the fun part of it.
Wonderful.
And of course, there are a lot of books too. For those probably would not like to speak, you can read some books, and those help. I have all over my space, in the car, in the room, everywhere in the living room. I have books that I can pick up these 1-2 minutes. I read this, I drop it, and just keeps you going. So, but most importantly, there's a special moment. This you probably will not hear, and I don't know how many people do this. There's always one special moment. Actually, two. One is a no. We call it a play and junkie moment, where we just forget about everything. No work, no reading, nothing. Nobody's serious about it. We're just playing around and throwing the pillows. We turn the house. If you come visiting us at that point, you think we're very untidy, but that's moment for us to throw things around. We even go as far as yapping ourselves sometimes, and they're into this thing now. They just come up with something, and we just go on and just stroking ourselves. Beautiful moment. And the second moment, most importantly, is the prayer moment with those kids. And my kids, the kind of prayer point they say sometimes I'm like, this should be my prayer point. The prayer point when you hear kids saying, oh Lord, help Daddy's business to grow, help him to get big clients, help him to stay strong. This kind of prayer where we should be praying. So if you put all of those things together, it just makes me want to go all the way for those kids, knowing what we've all been through.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
Exactly, you got to build it. Yeah,
it's the time you're investing in them that you're ripping back. Seeing how that is impacting them. I think that's the biggest takeaway for me here. It's just to invest time in your kids, even as a single parent, whether as a single mom or as a single dad. There's always going to be challenges.
Absolutely.
But you see, those kids are precious, and this is the time you have to mold them into the adults that you want them
Yes.
to be. And yes, prayer is absolutely essential.
100%.
And just that fun. What a sense of security it's building in your kids.
Absolutely.
The fact that they can play with you and throw pillows and just know that it's okay to do that. And you know, I just want to encourage you, if you're out there listening, whether as a single dad or as a single mom, sometimes life can throw so much at us that it reflects in the way we interact with our children. I'm asking you to please take a step back. Yes, you've lost a partner, but the children have also lost their mom or dad. So this time can be a time of bonding for all of you. And Michael is such a stellar example for that. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Yes, we can't thank you enough, Michael. Thank you for being so vulnerable, so open and honest. We hope that many more men will come on out and share their story, not just for the sake of sharing your story. By him sharing his story, you have been encouraged. You probably saved someone else. So please come on out, share your story. It liberates you as well when you do that. So posterity will always have this because there's always going to be YouTube. And Michael's story is always going to be there. How about yours? Who's going to hear your story? Who are you encouraging? So whatever you do, you know what I always say. Take good care of yourself. And God bless you. Until next time, I'll catch you later. Bye now.
Bye-bye.